finding her own food and her own way around, and eventually found her way to Nepal in 1972, where she studied for 3 years with Lama Yeshe. And she's told me this story, and one of these days when she's telling me, I'll push the record button on my phone so that it's all in my head well. I don't have all the details in my memory very well. But from Nepal, she found her way to northern India, to Tsopema in northern India, where she spent and continues to spend much of her life. Her root teacher, Lama Wangdo Rinpoche, whose photograph is on the table over there, who just passed away last fall, is the person who became her root teacher there. And she traveled with Rinpoche for probably about 25 years all over the world as his assistant and translator. And when Rinpoche could no longer travel, he asked her if she would continue to carry the lineage around the world herself. So she has been doing that for some years now. And has, in addition to kind of continuing to connect with Rinpoche's students, has now gathered a group of her own students with this lineage that she's carrying at his request. So, and when she's not in India, when she's not in Tsopema, she lives part-time in the Bay Area of San Francisco, where she also had a Chinese medicine practice for many years. So she's quite knowledgeable in the arts of health and healing, and in fact takes good care of everybody in Tsopema, as far as I could tell. The population there of Buddhists and Hindus and Sikhs, everybody knows her, and she cares for them all. They all have her phone number in their phones. She's quite something. So it's really an honor and a blessing to have her here with us this year. And I think this is maybe I can't remember how many years this has been now, 7 maybe, that she's been coming to us here. So we're very lucky, very blessed. So if this is your first time here and you're new to Dzogchen, I just invite you to open yourself to her in whatever way you do that. A lot of this teaching doesn't come through words. Some of it does, but some of it also doesn't. So just open yourself however you do to her as you like. And she's also very open to having questions, if you have questions during the evening or at the end of the evening usually. So feel free to ask her things. Anybody want to know anything? You found the bathroom keys there. There's some water behind the door also if you need it. So.
Yeah, I have a question. Is there a way to communicate with her on a one-to-one?
Yeah. Did you get one of the offering sheets?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has her an email address there.
Thank you.
She's open to and she'll say this too. It takes her a little while sometimes because she doesn't have a staff that goes through them for her, but she'll always respond to an email. Yes. Welcome. Enjoy. Okay.
Probably that's kind of how they roll.
And my red bag is where? Okay, that has to be where I can reach it. There we go. Make yourselves comfortable. Can you put the beverage in the middle of the plate? Good to see you all again. And the new faces. So we will start with the magic stuff, which is Mammy pills from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Mendrup from the Yoginis of Kannur, the wild ones. And let's see, I need 2 volunteers for the spirit offerings. 1. 1. 2. Would you please come back over here for them? No, just yourself. Have to prepare them with magic stuff. Do you know how to do this? Okay. chopa. Tombalame sanje rimboche. Tombalame tamcho rimboche. Tombalame gedun rimboche. Chabne kunchok sumla chopa. Tombalame sanje rimboche. Chumbalame tamcho rimboche. Drumbalame gedun rimboche. Janne kunchok sumla chopa. Sanjay Denba Jepe Chinle Zo Denon Chu Chang Solwa Debe Dak So Gonlane Pe Sapso Nedongo bandap sushewa dang Chudang tashi pilwe redu Chuku kundulamu gombo e Dorje sempagara dorji dang Shere singi bardu shinlabde Dedamazan tata tusunchi Dzogchen jupe lama la solwa deb Ergin pema junela solwa deb Dorji chang chitilo narudang Marpa mila gompo tatapa Na pupadang palden drupa suk Kargyula manam la solwa deb O chen lama nam la solwa deb Ndru chen lama nam la solwa deb Shak chen lama nam la solwa deb Nyen du da yundrun lama nam la solwa deb Pal kondu jongdang irme pa gangarab dorji jinchag pa jetidang nisume pai pa lamanam chetante chung. Join me in this, those of you who know how. Saji Puki Jukshing Me Tog Tram Re Rabling Ji Ni De Gyan Padi Idem Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Niryatayami. Now I can see you. We'll bring it back when we need it. Repeat after me. Sanjay Chu Gedun.
Sanjay Gedun.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Lama Idam Kandro.
Lama Yam Kandro.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Salung Tigli.
Salum Tigli.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Chuku Longku Truku. La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Rang Sem.
Ram Sem.
Tong Sel.
Tong Sel.
Ngo.
No.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Buddha Dharma Sangha.
Buddha Dharma Sangha.
I take refuge.
I take refuge.
Teacher Archetype Dakini, I take refuge.
Teacher Archetype Dakini, I take refuge.
Channels Chi, creativity, life force, essence.
Channels Chi, creativity, life force, essence.
I take refuge.
I take refuge.
Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya.
Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya.
I take refuge.
I take refuge.
Own mind,
Own mind,
emptiness, clarity,
emptiness, clarity,
innate nature.
innate nature.
I take refuge.
I take refuge.
Sanjay Chu Gedun.
Sanjay Chugedun.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Lama Yidam Kandro.
Lama Yidam Kandro.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Salung Tigli.
Salum Tigli.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
La Chapsu Chiwo.
Chuku, Longku, Truku. La Japsu Chiwo. Rong Sem Tong Sel Ngo. La Japsu Chiwo. The last line, the ultimate and absolutely true refuge. Own mind, self-mind, the mind, that which I am. Not little am, personality constantly changing, fat, skinny, old, young. Not that am that you are. That's little you, big you, real you, the one that's not changing. The one that's looking out from behind your own eyes. You, the seer of all that you see. The experiencer of all your experiences. The thinker of the thoughts, the feeler of the feelings, the perceiver of the perceptions. Not the personality. Personality is a little bitty aspect of this. Truly, who you think you are is very limiting. You're bigger than that. You're more than that. Rong Sem, own mind, big mind. Sem Ni, totality of mind, real mind, absolute mind. Sem can be little mind or big mind, just means mind. When you say Sem Ni, you mean big mind. When you say Sem Chung Chung, you mean little mind. When someone is always getting freaked out about every little thing, we say they're having Sem Chung Chung. Their attention is focused on their small mind. You've met people, or you've had periods like that. Never mind you've met people like that. You've felt like that from time to time, haven't you? So, Dzogchen really is all about shifting the point of your attention from little mind, opening it up into the totality of awareness, Sem Ni, big mind. And everything beyond that is just methods of how do you get it to do that when you haven't been habituated to doing that for a long time. Because really, we are so habituated to focusing on the little stuff and the nearby stuff. You can see it if some of you are energy workers. I know we have Qigong people here. Some of you may be trained to see other people's channel patterns. Any Chinese medical workers? Yeah, so for diagnostic reasons, you sort of feel them in the pulse, but you can also sort of squint through your peripheral vision and kind of see how they hang. And the dim spots tend to be lack of flow, which is either obstruction or deficiency. Not just a few things to the other people trained in that. It makes good analogies. So, usually, your energy channels are kind of held tight and wrapped. It's why we say most people look like luminous eggs, because your energy channels follow the flow of your attention. They're always moving like what you're paying attention to is always moving, but you pay attention to the nearby, close in. My family, my job. My laundry, my new shoes, the pinch in my new shoes, what I'm going to do later, what I want to do later, what I'm afraid might happen later, what happened yesterday, how I might have done it better, how terrible I am for doing it that way, how wonderful I managed to pull that off, I won that argument. right? I mean, that's what we're doing all the time. We're paying attention to the nearby. That creates a self-focused holding pattern. Animals do it too. How many of you have a dog? What's your dog's main interest in life? It's going to be either its food or the next walk. It might be a soft place to sleep from time to time, depending on the age of the dog. So this is something that is true in the animal realms. It's true among the ghosts. Ghosts get to be ghosts due to certain traumatic occurrences. They get caught in their own trauma. Usually their own trauma of lack. I really wanted to and I never got to, so I'm stuck here until I can. Oh, I remember one in the tube station in England that seemed to have died on his way to work, and he was always trying to get to work. Bugger to exorcise that one and let him to move on. Ghosts are stuck in the same way. If you die focused on what you never accomplished and never got, I never found true love. I never got rich. I never managed to own my own house. You tend to come back as a ghost. If you focus on your fears and angers, you tend to come back in the hell-like realms. If you focus on your competitiveness, you tend to come back as an asura. If you focus on your practice and what you're getting out of it and have accomplished, you tend to come back as a god. That's not such an advantage. Anybody here ever met somebody who's down from the god realm in their first life non-god? They're usually pretty miserable. Remember the Jalamans? Oh, you didn't know them. I can say this because they know perfectly well what gives them a hard time. It's not like it used to be. It's not as nice. Many of us have a lot of angst, which is homesickness for where we were last time if it was a nice place. Others of us have angst of homesickness of where we were last time if it was an unpleasant or traumatic place. So that's another way of not being free yet, focused on the past. Do you see how we all do this to some extent in all the 6 realms of existence? Realms refer to categories of lifestyle. They are places as well, but the line between the different realms is not real clear cut because they're categories. So there's things that are half hell, half ghost, and things that are half ghost, half people, and things that are awfully animal-like in human bodies, who never really look past my next meal and getting laid. A very animal-like existence. So understand that the realms don't have firm borders. It's a range and categories within a range. So this little mind, which is your hopes and fears that make up your personality, your habit patterns, it's a point of focus. You maintain all day, every day, your limitations as only this. It takes work not to be enlightened. And we all work very hard at maintaining our marigpas, obscurations, illusions, and belief systems. Partly this is habit. We've been maintaining them for eon upon eon. Partly it's a cramp. The cramp is in how we focus our attention. We point focus. We perform one-pointed attention. In each moment, the point is slightly different, but in most cases, it's always a single point. Notice that you look at this and that and the other thing, but there's always something you're looking at. Notice that you think about this, that, and the other thing, and that your attention pays a great deal of attention to what you're thinking. Notice that you're always feeling something, some definable something. It's a moving target, but it's always there. Happy, sad, shy, elated, nervous, hopeful, curious, interested, argumentative. These are all names of feelings. 84,000 of them there are to pick from. Categorized into 51 of the human realm and 6 basic types. We categorize things a lot and number them in Tibetan system, partially because it's an oral lineage and you gotta remember if you forgot one. That's why we number them. And partially because it's really hard to talk about this without using certain categories. Please do not start believing that the categories have real independent existence. They're mind-made ideas. Just like the idea of tree. Or is it a bush? Is it a pine tree? Or is it some kind of fern? Do you see how what that is keeps changing as I change its name? And unless you've Googled it and looked up to see what the heck that actually is in the corner, you can just sort of keep changing its name and feeling ever so slightly different about it. Your thoughts and feelings are well interwoven with your perceptions. And they change in each moment. You can't keep one. Not only do they change in each moment, but your attention focuses on what they are now. Even when in this moment you are thinking about what you are afraid will happen later. Oh dear, it will be cold outside when I walk to my car. That's still a thought happening right now that you're paying attention to in point focus. Are you following me this far about how little mind works? Little mind is you hanging on for dear life to your marigpa, your hopes, fears, beliefs, obscurations, and ignorances. If you can let go of that with your attention and actually relax, your own innate, natural state, innate nature, Rang Sem, own mind, emptiness, clarity, Tongsa. Ngo, own nature, will shine forth and require no effort or maintenance on your part. It is a matter of stopping the effort to obscure it. Stopping your habitual, obsessive, compulsive attention focus on phenomena. Phenomena is a great word. We use it a lot in Tibetan teachings. We refer to it as inner phenomena and outer phenomena. Inner phenomena feels as if it is inside us, such as thoughts and feelings. All thoughts without exception are called inner phenomena, as are all feelings without exception. Outer phenomena are the sensations of our sense organs as we interpret them. So, stuff. Houses, cars, trees, video recorders. You experience objects through your sense organs. You see them, or you hear them, or you taste them, or you touch them, or you smell them. Your 6 senses, 5 of them are what you use to simply perceive. Light bounces off. Form. Light enters the lens of the eye and stimulates rods and cones in the retina. These rods and cones are connected up to little tiny energy channels through which each stimulation sends a itty bitty puff of chi around like this, and all those puffs of chi come together back somewhere here and here, where a sensation turns into a perception. There's a chakra that's fairly big, and it's like around back here. That's where sensation turns into perception. That's where tickles in the rods and cones and puffs of chi turn into a defined object, such as a dorji. Is anyone here who has never seen a dorji? Good. Before I told you what it was called, what did you think it was?
2 crowns stuck together.
You will name it. You get an image. It's already becoming a perception once it's cleared into a clear image of something, and then you're going to name it according to the most similar thing to that shape that you have ever seen before. See how you do that? Sometimes I carry things around with me specifically that people don't know what they are, to play with this way, so you can see how that changes things. And then I tell you all sorts of weird things that they are that may or may not be true. But I didn't do that tonight. What I want you to notice is how you perceive the world around you. The ignorance, obscuration that accompanies all sensory organ sensations occurs in that flash where something is changed from pure sensation into an image, and the image is interpreted as an object. 2 crowns, a dorji. This is where you make a tree, a table. If an ant is crawling here, it doesn't perceive a table. It perceives a wide, flat plain, perhaps, if it had those words. Unfortunately, I've never really had a long conversation with ants to bother to learn their language, if they have one. In all of this interpretation, you're making up the world around you. If you see something that is not possible for you to exist, you will almost immediately interpret it as something else. And there's experiments been done with people wearing gorilla suits and walking through places where that should not, a purple gorilla suit walking through a place where that should not have been. And about 2/3 of the people there never saw it. Wasn't possible. Having had the experience of being invisible to someone for whom I was not possible once. Yeah, I see how that works. People who have been born deaf, now they have certain operations that can fix the audio hearing. They can replace parts of the ear. Many deaf people do not choose to have that surgery because it takes years to interpret that new sensation in any meaningful way. About 5 or 6 years, they tell me, in the deaf community. If you don't want to put 5 or 6 years into relearning to interpret a brand new sensation you've never had before, you don't have it done because it's easier to just keep lip reading. It's the same as they're doing, I think that's cochlear implants I'm talking about. They're doing some experiments with retinal implants. Works great for people who were sighted until they were 6 months old or older. Those who were born without sight, they don't get it working. They don't manage to interpret it into objects. Do you understand how you interpret the world around you? Now, once you name it, the next thing that happens is you tell yourself a story about it. It's magical, ceremonial. It's ordinary. Vodka. Now you're going to have feelings about the story you just told yourself. That's not outside of you. Your perceptions are in your mind, little mind. To be able to relax little mind, we got to find the muscle that hangs onto it and sort of stroke it a little to get it to let go. Because you've been focusing on little mind forever. That's why we're spending so much time describing how it works. Your perceptions, the way you experience trees, objects, houses, arises in your mind and dissolves in your mind and has never been anywhere other than in your mind. There may be something out there, but that's treeness rather than its bushness. Because I've actually never seen one of those bigger than that, which is why it might be some kind of single stem bush. That's treeness versus its bushness. Do you see how you feel slightly different about it depending on what you think it is? This is true of people you meet. As soon as you meet a person, they have a hairdo, a complexion, a body build, and clothes, all of which give you a perception of that person as a certain kind of person. When I dress like this, I look like a Lama kind of person. But if you meet me in my jeans in the grocery store, I look like a elderly shopper kind of person. Everything. The moment we name it, we begin to tell a story about it. Those stories aren't real. You're making them up. You know what makes me a llama? Y'all think I'm a llama. Therefore, to you, I am. Enlightenment is not the lack of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. Without perceptions, you couldn't walk down the street without bumping into a lamppost. Without thoughts, you couldn't add up the restaurant bill and figure out your tip. Arithmetic is done with thought. Without feelings, there'd be no vitality in you. So, big mind is not without these things. It is simply not only these things, not limited by these things, not invested in the made-up pretend reality of these things. Okay, I've given you the intellectual part. The intellectual part is called the first Wong. If I don't give you that first, you will spend the rest of the time arguing with the rest of it intellectually. So unless I can convince you to relax your attention first intellectually, you won't wanna. This is true of most people. It's also necessary to convince you emotionally. What gets you in trouble? What messes up your relationships? What hurts? As we go through this constant storytelling, our stories depend on past experiences and chemical hormones. You ever wake up in a bad mood? And then you can find 10,000 things to be in a bad mood about. If you wake up in a good mood, you can find all sorts of things to be happy about. Nothing changed except your brain chemicals. Powerful little suckers. Your sixth sense is your yi. It may be a mass of neural tissue here in the solar plexus, secondary brain. It's extremely sensitive to neurochemicals. It's the sense organ with which you feel feelings as a sensation. Most feelings are also a sensation. They're not just an idea. Yeah! Got some of you. You should now have a little bit of a sensation in your yi, having been startled. Of course, I've done this every time, and some of you just like, oh yeah, she's doing that again. The point I'm making is that with the six senses, you directly create. With the six senses, you constantly experience sensations. You name as things outside of yourself interpretations of those sensations. He did it. It's their fault. I'm unhappy because they elected an idiot. Or, there's lots of reasons we can come up with. Not a political discourse, sorry. But do vote. With this habit of believing our interpretations and then embroiling the simple interpretation, that's a cup, that's a drum, with all sorts of stories involving all the old drums we've ever seen and all our post-traumatic issues and what happened yesterday and what mommy said about drums. It gets pretty complex and farther and farther and farther from any perceptible or real reality. We live in a fantasy world. Our fantasies based on our hormonal activities, which come together with our past experiences. And then we have feelings about the stories we tell ourselves. We don't feel about what's going on around us. Maybe as you grew up, somebody told you, don't walk alone at night in dark places. It's dangerous for a girl. And so, you don't, even in a perfectly assessed safe area, you still feel fear when you walk alone in dark places, because that story you got told is coming up again and again. Maybe once you got mugged by somebody with a beard. Now bearded people make you nervous. You see how it all gets really messy and hurts? Questions so far about how we maintain samsara? Yes?
Okay, so perception, interpretation, and judgment are functions of our own mind. But is there an external secondary cause? Are there actually objects out here?
Very good question. There is a debate in Madhyamika philosophy, which is studied in the Galupa schools, about that very thing that's been going on for a few hundred years. My original teacher of Madhyamika, who was in the Galupa lineage, his way of addressing it was to say, there may or may not be, jury's still out on this, a real external reality. But no one here in samsara has ever perceived it. By definition of being in samsara, no sentient being ever can perceive it. To be a sentient being is to be wrapped in your own compulsion of small mind, to be totally absorbed in what you're thinking, feeling, and perceiving, to be absorbed by your hopes and fears about your perceptions and the stories you tell yourself and your feelings. By that definition, no sentient being will ever be able to perceive a real external reality, nor ever has in the past, nor ever will in the future. So if nobody can see it, and nobody can ever experience it, who cares if it's out there? And that was my teacher, Lama Yeshe's answer to the ongoing debate. That is in a particular school, which is not the school that I am trained in. I'm Nyingma, and we tend to be on the side of that debate with the acknowledgement that all sides are illusory and all answers are made of thought, and no thought can encompass true reality, that we're making all of it up. And that beyond what we're making up is pure, innate, natural enlightenment. And that cannot be defined in thought. So it is unthinkable, inconceivable. It is said that the Buddha, Gautama, lion of the Shakya clan, gave 84,000 different teachings without saying a single true word about enlightenment. You can't. Words are thoughts. They're limited by the language you think in. Are you bilingual by any chance?
I am.
So you know that in one of the languages you speak, you can think and say and even feel different things than you can in the other one.
That's true.
So you can see the limitation of languages. Even if you speak 1,000 languages, there's still going to be some language you don't speak. And there may be things that could be said in that language that you can't even think, because you have no way to talk to yourself about it. Thoughts and languages limit your perceptions. The infinite openness of awareness is always present. But because you hold your attention in tunnel focus on what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're perceiving, you are unable to perceive the totality. Look at my face through your fingers. Hold your fingers up in front and look at me through them. Can you see me clearly if you look at me through the fingers? Spread your fingers. Now look at your fingerprints. Can you still see me clearly while looking at your fingerprints?
No.
Nothing got changed and got more obscuring. Your focus changed. And that's what we do. We're always focusing on our fingerprints, on the minutiae of daily life. And we don't give ourselves the chance or the opportunity to expand and relax and transcend thought. Not discard thought. I'm not saying it's bad or unuseful around here at times. It's the fact that we're stuck in it and can't get out that's the problem. A bra is very useful, but if you could never get it off, it would be a problem. So the same with our narrow attention. So the second point I want to bring to you, having understood that all your pain is caused by being limited by narrow attention. All the hurts, all the messes we make in our life, the fights with a friend, because we think they meant by what we think they said, blah, blah, blah. I once had a fight with a very dear friend because, well, I'd eaten some beans and was rather gaseous. She was talking to me about something, I don't want to go into what it was, but it was really deep of the heart and a little bit funny. Like maybe somebody would have think she'd done wrong. And I began to look at her like this. frowny. She didn't say anything. She was too embarrassed, but she was sure I judged her badly and hated her, and never came around for weeks. I was just trying not to fart. Oh, the troubles we make for ourselves misinterpreting each other. And there's the pain. Or trying to find the right interpretation for the thing that's going on in the office politics right now. Do you know how long you can spend twirling on trying to figure that out? Or whether he loves me or not. If you're, well, there's a certain age group where that's the one you twirl on. So, I want to show you a simple method, a technique for letting go of that. It's very restful. If you take it no farther than learning to momentarily let go of your narrow focus on phenomena, it will still help you relax. Probably improve your blood pressure and cortisol levels, and be generally good for you. If you take it further to the point where it pervades all experience, you will find yourself becoming sane, not self-sabotaging in all the little ways we do that. Make sense? So it's simple. This is the root of Dzogchen, the freedom from compulsive point focus. There is a method of body, a method of speech, body, form, speech, and a method of mind, or rather instructions for the body, instructions for the speech, and instructions for the mind. The instructions for the body are to align your energy channels straight. Prop your body in that way. Unfortunately, most everywhere I go, the chairs provided for people are the worst possible ones for doing this in, and they gave me a good one. So you may need to do things with your jackets or pillows, because they have no lumbar support, but they're the common kind of chairs around the world. The exact description of this, in case you lose track, you may Google ergonomic office chair adjustments, and it will tell you exactly how to sit in the Maitreya position. You want it short enough that your legs are perpendicular to the floor, your calves straight up and down, your feet flat on the floor. You want your knees slightly more together than separate. If you're like me and you have a belly that's in the way of having them all the way together, then they can be a little apart. You want your arms loose and your shoulders loose. They say you should be able to fit an egg into your armpit if you wanted. Why you would want to do that, I have no idea, but so they say. And your palms are just relaxed on your thighs. Your back is straight, and your head is like pulled back just a little bit because there's a curvature of the neck you want to straighten out, but not with like a lot of tension, actually in a relaxing way, so that your head doesn't wobble when you don't use muscles to hold it up. There's a point where it balances. Your teeth are slightly open, they are not closed. Some of us put the edges of our tongue between them. and the tongue lies naturally on the roof of the mouth. Now the eyes are the key. Your attention will follow the gaze of your eyes. If you look over here, your attention will go there. It's hard to look at something without paying attention to it. It's natural and automatic for your attention to follow your eyes. So this is great. We have a handle for our attention. Can you remember back in college when you'd been pulling an all-nighter the night before and then you had a boring professor and you learned the one thing that is really important that you learned in school, which is how to sleep with your eyes open? Remember that skill? We're going to go back there. We're going to have our eyes neither wide open nor completely closed, but at about half mast. Those of us wearing glasses will find this is 10 times easier if we take them off for the process. It's a great advantage to be wearing glasses so you can do this, because when you take your glasses off, you can't point focus. The rest of us will have to find the muscle that controls the lens of the eyes and relax that muscle, not so that things become blurry, but so that they are not in point focus. Peripheral vision becomes clearer when you do this. The iris dilates slightly so one sees a little bit more light. Things look a little brighter. Try to relax your eyes like this. These are the instructions of the body. The instructions of the speech are much simpler. Simply shut up. You know that little voice that is explaining to you what you're doing all the time and talking about it and telling you your opinions and what you think and how you feel, and you know that voice? Stop it. As Guru Rinpoche said, shunt aside the sluice gate of your water wheel. Or in a more modern vernacular, put your mind in neutral gear. Thoughts be happening, but you are not paying attention to them. You are not following them. The engine's running, you're still alive, there's thoughts, feelings, there's perceptions, sensations. But you don't have to pay it any never mind. Relax. Thoughts, as they arise in mind. For mind itself is the thinker of thoughts. Never mind big mind, little mind, just mind. Allow your attention to gently release its focus on the individual thoughts you are thinking, one right after another, and expand into the mind itself, in which the thoughts dance like will-o'-the-wisps, no solidity. Some say look between the thoughts, some say look past the thoughts, some say look through the thoughts, they're transparent anyway. This is mind seeing itself. This is awareness, aware of awareness. Rang Sem Rang Sel. Own mind, natural clarity. As this or that thought arises and grabs your attention, put it back down. Again and again, look between, look past, look through. Thoughts themselves, like clouds blown by the puffs of chi as wind through the sky, let your attention slide past the sky, the clouds into infinite empty sky of mind. For as long as the wind blows, clouds will arise and vanish. None of this has any effect on the infinite empty sky. For as long as the chi moves in the channels, the winds blow. Thoughts, feelings, perceptions arising and vanishing in mind as mind. And mind itself has always been there, is always there now. In every now, for all nows are always now. Allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to perceive the thinker. Infinite and open. Empty of characteristics that can be described, such as yellow, blue, round, square. Here or there, now or then even. No thing. You cannot even say there is one or there are many. For these are only thoughts, one, many, aardvark, persimmon, that arise in mind and dissolve in mind and are not made of anything other than mind. Let go with your attention, your awareness. Let it gently open into its natural state without rejecting the dance of vitality which arises as the creativity of phenomena. This is not snuffing out like a candle. This is relaxing past the cramp of tunnel focus into the completely natural state of infinite open awareness. isness without being. No thing. But not a big dead old nothing, is it? For it's vital, alive, vibrant, luminous and lucid, with the playful creativity of all the arisings and dissolvings of phenomena. Not only empty, but vibrant, with clear light by which the seer sees. And phenomena is but the shimmer of the clear light nature of infinite open awareness. And even the word clear light is but a poetic conceit. It does not shine from anything to anything. But awareness is the seer, and the vibrant vitality by which perceivers perceive. That very aliveness which does not come and go is unborn, undying. We call it, poetically, clear light by which the seer sees. And phenomena, poetically, we call the shimmer, the sparkle of that clear light. For truly, this infinite open awareness is awake and aware, alive, vital, vibrant, and constantly, playfully creative, creating all sorts of phenomena, none of which is created of anything other than no thing. We have a name for this awareness. Sometimes we call it open awareness. In Tibetan, we sometimes call it tawa. You really don't have a name in English. It's not a language you can think about this in. In fact, this innate and natural open awareness, you can't really think about it. Your thoughts arise in this, made of this, dissolve in this, but they cannot encompass it. Phenomena does not have to be a distraction from open awareness, for it is crystal clear, utterly transparent, not made of substance, not iron or gold or clay. It's made of awareness. Thoughts are made of mind arising in mind, dissolving in mind. The same for feelings and perceptions. Therefore, you can see right through them. And it is possible to to rest in open awareness without it either being disturbed in the least bit by the arising of phenomena, nor in any way disturbing the constant creativity of arising. There is no real separation here. Are there questions? And if anyone is calling in with questions, those can be asked too, or typing in.
So the open awareness that I perceive, I think might be power, but I'm not sure. And it disappears when I go to sleep. So the awareness you're talking about is there all the time, right?
Yes,
Even when I'm asleep.
yes.
So what I'm perceiving is not Tawa.
No, but it may be closer to Tawa. I cannot crawl inside of you and know exactly what you're perceiving. I'm so sorry. I wish I could. It's always there, but you may not be paying attention to it all the time. For example, when you are having an argument with a loved one, a husband, a wife, whatever, whoever you love, a kid, you usually will get all caught up in what's there, and Tawa could go hang itself. You got no attention on it. It didn't go away. You just stopped looking. When you're indoors reading a book with your attention focused on a good book, the sky out there is not gone. You just have no attention for the sky. You got a good mystery novel or something in front of you. Like that. So what the learning of meditation is first to find a brief glimpse of that open awareness, where you're not totally distracted by focusing on the idea of open awareness or how you feel in open awareness or the perception of open awareness. You're not point focused on any of that. You're just sort of resting there until you have perceived this. No. Because it's not even a perception until you have met your own face. Until you have seen past the minutiae of phenomena, your own personal stuff that you're all thinking about and feeling about and things, into a more expansive view, and been able to sort of rest in that for a moment, you won't really be able to meditate. You'll only be able to say, still the mind, but it'll get active again the moment you stop. Once you have found it squiggled around with yourself until you've been able to relax for a moment into Tawa, meditation is just returning to that relaxation again and again. Does this make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that the answer to your question, or did I go off in a tangent?
You said the difference is that I'm not paying attention to
Yeah.
it when I go to sleep. Is it possible to pay attention to it?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. I want to do that.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
So visualize. There's a trick.
Okay.
Visualize a white ah. Identify with that image. Go to sleep in the clear, luminous light of that image. It is advised to sleep on your right side when doing this. The white ah is a symbol of Sambhogakaya. Sambhogakaya itself is a word that symbolizes the innate aliveness of this open awareness, so that it's not just a big dead old black outer space void nothing. It has no thing to it, but it's vibrant, awake, aware, alive. So that vitality is symbolized by the white ah. If you try to sleep in just the relaxation, it probably won't work. You need a symbol to carry your attention into the dream time.
Thank you.
Yes. No, I'm looking right at you.
I was wondering if you could talk about fear. When I've been on longer retreats, and I feel like I've had a glimpse of something, like almost like my head is gone, and I feel fear, like I pull myself back. I'm worried about falling off some sort of cliff where I won't be able to be in the world anymore.
You're missing Sambhogakaya. That fear arises. Excuse me, I sometimes get a bit hoarse. That fear arises from focus on the emptiness aspect of Dharmakaya. And as Westerners, we don't have continuous images and symbols of Sambhogakaya as we're growing up. It's not deeply entrenched in us, so at that time, as we're looking, we get stuck leaning too far to one side. We're not actually hitting it. We're hitting the empty aspect of it. And it is necessary to stand in the vitality aspect of it and perceive the liveliness, playfulness, creativity aspect, and the emptiness aspect as the same thing, while identifying with the aliveness aspect. I'm trying to say this in English, which is not really suited.
Could you please repeat that, just what you just said?
Yes, you're supposed to identify mostly with Sambhogakaya, while allowing Dharmakaya and Nirmanakaya to be recognized as the same thing. Then you, as Sambhogakaya, recognize yourself as that, and the three kaya arise as one, and stability occurs. Did that make sense to anybody who's been practicing this for a while? That was in Tibetan words, because boy, do I have trouble getting this into English. So you would do well to do more Yidam practice to really make Sambhogakaya realer for you, using symbols, because Tantra is just working with symbols. And symbols will creep down around and past your conscious mind, which is going to argue with you about it and has resistance, and sort of percolate up, sneaky that way. That's the beauty of Tantra. You don't even have to believe it to make it work. You just have to follow the instructions. It all works with symbols and your subconscious. And that takes the lead instead of your conscious.
Well, while we're on it, could you comment about nightmares?
That's a big subject. Some of them are replays of traumas. In fact, that's the most common reason.
Yeah.
Some of them are telling you you've got a glitch somewhere.
So how to banish them?
How to banish them, it will depend on the nightmare, but lucid dreaming will do that. There's a couple of Tara practices specifically designed for doing that in the Tantras. If you can get any form of lucid dreaming during a nightmare, turn around and face it.
Yeah.
Walk into it.
Yeah.
That will usually banish a repeater.
A repeater.
A nightmare
Yeah,
that
repeater.
you get that same one again and
Once you
again.
see it.
I had a friend who was chased for years in her nightmares by this boom, 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 these footsteps of a giant, and it would follow her everywhere. She could never get away. She could never see what was chasing her because she was too busy running. Finally, she turned around and looked, and it was a big brass band. And that ended that problem. So if you can, turn around and look at the symbols that are chasing you. If you can't, there is a Tara practice in the 21 Taras. I don't have the text with me tonight to look it up for you. Email me when I'm back in the Bay Area and I'll try to at least look it up and tell you which Tara it is. However, you can just do praise to the 21 Taras regularly before bed and that should work. I would use it, because this is dream time, I would use Tantra rather than Dzogchen to deal with the problem. Dream time is symbolic. Other questions? Yes.
Someone is asking, is it okay to close eyes sometimes? Sometimes in my perception, everything starts to get dark and shine. Also, some other visual effects. Is it okay to close eyes sometimes to rest?
Do blink as natural. Sometimes the visual effects are caused by your eyeballs drying out. Do not make a habit of meditating with your eyes closed. However, if you find that you've left them open for too long, they've gotten a bit dry and irritated, then closing them for a minute or so is not a bad thing. But don't make a habit. You see, the whole point in this is not to be able to sit in a spot in your gum tree and meditate. It's to be able to merge session with out of session, to stabilize structure. And if you develop the habit of sitting with your eyes closed, it will be much harder to meditate while walking around. You won't have the habit for it. And if you walk around with your eyes closed, you'll break your nose. Does that work for the person? They'll comment if they need more.
Right. Well, look.
Yes.
I don't know how to ask this question, but I'm just going to say what I'm trying to ask. When you speak and I receive your teaching, I read the teachings or I practice. As soon as things get to be really good, something awful tries to squash me down and wants me to either quit, fills me with fear, threatens that I will become sick or pass out or be attacked, and I have to take a break and start all over again. And how do is there some way that when you feel that something good is happening, I'm being threatened, how to stop that?
There are a couple of different ways to work with that. It's not that uncommon an experience. For you, what sort of tantric practices have you done? Have you worked with Tantra or only with Dzogchen?
With both. I follow a lot of the teachings of the Dalai Lama.
Chenrezig.
Yes, and of the Enigma Institute in Berkeley. I started with the Rinpoche there.
So here's what you do. Instead of panicking when the fear just begins before it's big, or the sense of foreboding, in that moment, immediately grab your mala and start saying manis. Om Mani Padme Hum. And feeling Amitabha. You familiar with Amitabha? Western direction. The transformation or the light beyond compare. Opame, incomprehensible clear light. Sambhogakaya. So Chenrezig is born as an aspect of Opame. Thousand-armed Chenrezig has a red head as his 11th head. Amitabha Opame. So especially if you use the visualization of thousand-armed Chenrezig, but any Chenrezig, and even without visualizing, visualize the incomparable bright light of Chenrezig and say manis. This will not actually break you out of meditation, but it will deal with the overriding emotional component that's coming up here. What is your birth culture? What language is your first language?
My first language was Hungarian, then German, then Russian.
Yeah, there is a Slavic cultural curse, the evil eye. When things, I have Latvian background, where if things are good, the bad thing will come. Mm-hmm. That is deep in your culture, the culture of your babyhood.
It's my mother's mantra.
Yeah. So that's gotten stuck to you. And you want to allow it to go off gently, so do make sure that the blessing of Chenrezig and these manis relieves your mother of this too. Not just yourself. Your mother and all of your cultural phenomenon. I would like to teach you a particular Chenrezig practice, but I don't have time to do that tonight. Thousand-armed Chenrezig, working with the 1,000-petaled lotus and the light of interconnectivity. It's a direct Sambhogakaya perception practice. Since you've already had Chenrezig Wangs, you can find the sadhana on my website, a teaching on it. Try that when this particular doom sense, I know there's a really good Russian Yiddish word for it that I just can't remember, but it has a name. It's a common known thing. Overtakes you. Yeah, Latvian side of my family. My grandma had it. Does this help?
Thank you. Yes.
Most welcome. In fact, as I am remembering in this moment, I'm going to put a stack of cards out so that you guys can also email me with these questions that come up after tonight. I answer all the emails myself. Of course, I answer the short ones before I answer the long ones. Just so you know. Throat lozenge. Keeps me audible. Other questions? Yes.
The person who asked one has a couple of comments, and then there's another question from someone
Okay.
else. Thank you. In my experience, when I practice enough with closed eyes, non-duality perception is still with me during the day. Also, I'm quite new to Dzogchen, but have some Advaita and Zen background. Now, just few years started Tibetan Buddhism.
Well, I'm glad that practicing with closed eyes is not causing interference for the individual. It can, but it doesn't always. And my recommendation is always to practice with your eyes slightly open, to avoid getting caught in extremes. But your reality may differ, said to that person. Next question.
This is from Analea. Lama Lena, thank you for helping us develop our minds. Once on retreat, you shared a practice where we would get up before dawn and stare at the sky as first light was developing. Is this practice helpful in developing understanding the nature of Sambhogakaya?
For you at that time, and for those people there, it was in the context of when that was given. Without the right context, it's not useful for all people at all times. That's the best I can give there. Probably I gave it in response to a question someone asked that brought up that it was going to be useful for some of the people there. But I never remember. If you have trouble imagining the clear light of Amitabha incompatible, if you are unable to unfocus your eyeballs, this practice may be useful to you. Do not face, but you should be facing west at dawn. It's the brightness rising when your eyes are adjusted to the dark that sometimes, as an analogy, gives you a feel that helps you work with Sambhogakaya nature of mind. The innate vitality, the lucidity, the luminosity. We got lots of poetic words for it. Other questions?
How does one know the yidam? Like, how do you know what yidam you need to practice with?
In general, it's the one you really, really like. Sometimes a teacher will tell you, yidams are not always the same throughout your life. There may be changes. I'm on my third. Because we change. So it may be that a teacher tells you, it may be that you've only had one Wong. That's the one, unless you have an aversion to it. Or it may be that you've just always loved Dorji Pagmo, or one of the Herukas, or Demtog. And every time you see a picture of it, you're just like, I really like that archetype. Then you should try to get the Wong for that and practice that one. Unless a teacher who knows you well guides you towards something else. So I've given you the seated part of this practice, or explained it to you. But there's another part. In Garabdorji, the root text, 3 words of Garabdorji, second word, to decide on one thing is the second vital point. At all times and on all occasions, recognize the already noticed nature of mind, or notice the already recognized nature of mind. He didn't say it in English. What that means is, you have to actually decide that this is the practice you want to do, if this is the practice you want to do. And then you have to do it all the time. Except in the beginning, do not do it while driving or operating heavy machinery. Not for the first few months. You're a little over enthusiastic and you could trance out while driving, and that's not a good thing for you or the people around you. The same while working with a chainsaw. So let's use some common sense on this. But while walking, while riding a horse won't bump into anything, even if you're totally out of it. Horse will take a drunk home quite safely. Of course, take the drunk to the horse's home, but the whole point to all of this is not just to do it on the cushion. If you do it in the morning on the cushion, that's good. It sets you up for the day. It refreshes you. I like to do it before speaking. I find that once I start talking or reading or doing email or interacting, I'm already leaning into the side of thoughts. Whereas if I sit first, I can go gently into both together real easy. So I'll recommend that for those of you for whom it works for your lifestyle. If you are generally woken up by a 3-year-old bouncing on your bladder, this is probably not going to work. And there's a time in your life when that's how it is. All the time, whatever you're doing while you're doing it. That's a quote from Jangchub Dorji, my teacher's root guru back in Tibet, who was also the root guru of Nalki Norbu Rinpoche. Other questions? We will continue the rest of the teaching this weekend with more Dzogchen in the form of a teaching text called Kaden Shola, which has different words that point at the same thing. Nge wandi nyor duda chi chi sala go arshu. How many of you here were students of Wangdo Rinpoche? May I see hands? Go on, stick your hand up. Yeah, you were. You are. I know I gave you one, but I'm still trying to see how many people. Okay, there are a few people here. Please come up if you are students of Wangdo Rinpoche. I remembered to fish them out just before we left. Wheel of Dharma. This is his bones. After his cremation, some of the bones didn't burn. I was given them and I ground them up and mixed them with clay and made these satsas and fired it. He had previously given me a tsatsa just like this of Jangchub Dorji's bones. So for those of you who are students of him, this one has the knot of eternity. Who else studied with Wangdo Rinpoche? Who else has dreamed of Wangdo Rinpoche or feels a strong connection? Anybody? Okay. If you don't feel a connection to him, there's no point in giving you one. But if you feel a connection to him, then I would be happy to give you one. It's entirely up to you. You should listen to his teaching on the 3 words, which is up on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody going to see Bruce? Who will take one to Bruce for me? Who will see him first? Bill. Concha.
Be happy to receive it, I'm sure.
Did I give you one also?
No,
A lotus.
thank you.
You knew Rinpoche.
Sweet.
And I know Bruce is one of his students, so he should have one. And I don't know if I'm going to run into him anywhere.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. We are done for this evening. Yes, if any of you who are not able to come back for the weekend want to adopt a yogi, and the point to adopting a yogi is if you're at a point in your life or your career where you've got more money than time, where your family's young, your career's taken off, yada yada, sometimes practicing with a yogi will help overcome your time deficit where you can't do all the practice you would like to because of where your life is at this time. So anyone who wants